Hey folks, this is Tennyson E Stead, writer and director of Quantum Theory, founding member of 8-Sided Films, coming to you today with another 8-Sided blog. And today I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about why it is I started directing and how this process came to be. I'm going to talk very specifically about one aspect of that journey, which I got into in high school through the folks that I was working with in stagecraft, and specifically technical theater, lighting design and set design and these kinds of things. But that group of people that I was involved with were also very, very into tabletop role-playing games, which is a very specific, I guess, subculture within sort of geek culture as it exists in our country today, where like in Dungeons & Dragons, people to get together in small groups and create stories where everybody in the group is playing the role of a character, which is why it's called role-playing. And one person is a storyteller or a game master or whatever you want to call it, and that person is in charge of all of the other aspects of the story. And that includes the characters that aren't main characters, it includes all the things that happen along the way, it includes describing the surroundings of the characters to the people playing them so that they can understand what's in their environment and what the dangers are and what they have to work with to solve problems. And as they come into the game, either the characters that are being created for this game by the players have a goal that they want to accomplish, or the storyteller gives them a goal depending on how the game is being played. And those characters go on that adventure. And the reason why you see dice of multiple sides, and for anyone who's just catching on, our company's called 8-Sided Films because in many respects this was the genesis of the work that we do here. Reason why those dice exist is because if it was just up to the storyteller what happens, then everything would be in the best interest of the story, everything would be convenient. You see what I'm saying? If you're on top of a train and there's a spy who has the secret plans and the spy is on the next car in the train and you're on the roof and you're running to catch up and you jump across from car to car, if it's up to the storyteller, either you make it or you don't, depending on what the storyteller thinks is best, and either the storyteller's helping you move the story along or they're being a dick. And that's not helpful. So what you do is you have measurements for how good your character is at jumping and running, and you have measurements for how far the cars are apart and how hard this is to do, and then you roll the dice to see whether or not chance bridges the gap between how good you are at jumping and how hard this thing is to do, whether something goes wrong or whether you accomplish this the way that you should, and are you strong enough to do it in the first place, and are you lucky or unlucky? Well, all of that is wrapped up in the die roll, which adds an element of an excitement and adventure to the story because you've created this character, and now that character's at risk. Now you've got something on the line, which is all of your investment in the story up until now. That's what's on the line. So it's fun, and when I was in high school, I went to Phillips Andover Academy, which is a remarkable place, frankly, where there's a lot of resources for kids to learn and a lot of really exceptional teachers around who are willing to basically help you with anything that you want to get yourself into. And being in technical theater as I was, there's among certain subcultures in the theater community, there's a prejudice towards actors that I was definitely exposed to. I did not expect to end up working with and directing actors when I was that age. I was kind of snooty about it. But when we were playing these games, the storyteller who was running them was like the husband of an adjunct faculty member. So it was somebody with a lot of storytelling ability. It was somebody, again, who's got a lot of life experience beyond what we had as high school kids. And it was somebody with a big passion for theater. And the performances that this person was eliciting from the kids around me, kids that I knew and did not consider themselves actors or in any way performance savvy, were sometimes heartbreaking. It was a really intense story. We were playing World of Darkness games, which, if you were a kid in the 90s, was the White Wolf games, Vampire and Werewolf, and those games. And already the people writing these games kind of had a theater dorkishness about them and willingness to give kids the opportunity to express stories with a large amount of personal stakes. And that's kind of what the games were engineered for. It wasn't just Dungeons & Dragons where you've got dwarves and elves and there's a war. It was, what does this mean to your character personally? What is your character's personal mission? What is your character's personal internal conflicts and controversies? And how can we build a story around that? Which was, at the time, you know, in terms of gaming, it was pretty revolutionary. Certainly it changed the face of gaming all across the board. But I was in a group of kids who were really responsive to begin with to that kind of challenging. And then, you know, we had this storyteller who was crafty enough to take advantage of the tools that those games were providing him with and really, really reach into these kids and pull out these intense, difficult, challenging, emotive, and surprising performances. And that really got me hooked. I mean, first it got me hooked in tabletop gaming. And I went into college with a big passion for it, and a big part of my community in college was built around tabletop gaming. That's how I know Quantum Theory's composer, Dan Haggerty. We used to play Star Wars, the role-playing game together, and I think I was running a White Wolf game called Human Occupied Landfill the night we met. It's one of Dan's favorite stories. I'm sure if you ask him to make a video blog about it, he'd be only happy to. Too happy to. But that started the foundation for my community in college. And then, you know, as I got older and as I got more aggressive and more ambitious with the games that I was running, two things happened. First of all, I started writing a lot. I wrote 3 tabletop role-playing games, 2 of which are available on the internet, and which are worlds that I enjoy working with and that I'm still passionate and excited about. And you know, I'm going to develop them in the future into other kinds of content. And then the third is my first children's project, which is right now a tabletop role-playing game that I'm trying to bring down to a level of complexity where it's comfortable and easy for parents to play with their kids, because I want to involve kids more in the empowerment that geek culture can offer. And I want parents and kids to be able to share that together. And I want our culture to be more inclusive when it comes to race and gender. I want us to be more willing to let our community tell us what geek culture is and less demanding that we enforce our image of geek culture on the people around us. And the game that I'm working on is called Sky Chasers, and it's something I've run a Kickstarter for in the past. It's about 10-year-old space commandos in exile from Earth trying to plot humanity's course through the heavens, and it's a fun game. There's giant dinosaurs and giant robots, and it's great. It's really good, and it brings out the kid and adults, and it's something kids can wrap their heads around, and it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of different things I can do with it, and I'm working on doing some of those things as time goes on. I want it to be something where, you know, if there's toys, where a kid can go to the toy store and find a toy that looks like them, and that's their Sky Chaser, as opposed to starting with the character that they saw on the cartoon, starting with the brand and how the brand is structured and organized. I want to start with the individual kid's story and build from there. And tabletop role-playing is a great place to start with that, because people are creating their own stories. And that's my, you know, as we go into animation, as we go into other things, that's my intention there. So I love tabletop role-playing. It's given me the ability to envision a culture where we have a level of quality control, and where we expect a level of excellence from one another as performers, and at the same time where the audience can tell us what they need. And that's not something cinema can do as well, because it's filmed. You know, what you show people is what you show them. It's a performance, and I love performance. That's my passion. But I do think in terms of play, in terms of playing with children especially, we need a better model. And Sky Chasers is my starting off point there. So of course, you know, tabletop role-playing games have inspired me creatively to pursue that field. But the other thing that happened as time went on is that I started exposing myself to the boundaries of what the people in my community were willing to experiment with and what they were comfortable with and what level of emotional risk they were willing to take. And also, you know, as I started working with actual actors who don't have those problems because it's their job not to, I fell in love with the process because I discovered what actual training and professionalism provide an actor with the ability to do. I started discovering for myself the joy of challenging an actor to do something they didn't think they could do, and then discovering together that actually they're capable of much, much more. And, you know, I mean, that's been the creative process behind Declassified, which is the web series Declassified Project Icarus, which I just finished with Gerard, which is on the youtube.com/8sided films, right where this video is hosted. You know, that was actually a big part of, it's always a part of our creative intention at 8sided Films, is to take our ensemble, universally populated by excellent, truly excellent, searingly excellent actors who I would be comfortable placing in a room with any famous performer, any of any level of excellence, and know that my actors are going to stack up against them because they have the same level of training, because we're part of the same community, and because the expectations that my actors have of themselves are expectations they deliver on and that are consistent with the highest levels of performance ethics and performance standards. So, you know, I'm I'm forcing myself to stay on the cutting edge of what people are comfortable with in terms of their craft, and what people are comfortable with in terms of their emotional availability, what people are comfortable with in terms of engaging the stakes of a problem, engaging the intelligence of a problem, whatever those boundaries happen to be for any given actor. My job is to scare them just enough that their addiction to my work continues unabated. And that grew out of working with tabletop role-playing players. I run tabletop role-playing games with some of our ensemble members, Dan and Gerard and a couple of others, Danielle K. Jones. We all play role-playing games, and we play them together. And there's even videos out there of us playing them together. And so I still enjoy it, but it's definitely one place that pushed me into directing pretty much on a beeline for all of those reasons. And it seemed like a good opportunity to come back and mention it and talk a little bit about it, especially since I've noticed that there are quite a few screenwriters in particular coming up through the Hollywood system now that do have a tabletop role-playing game background. It seems like I'm not the only one who felt this way, which is interesting to me. It's not something I've seen people discuss openly, except maybe at conventions. So I figured I'd throw it out there that that's a part of my background. And there you have that. This is, I think, the end of the blog. So if you enjoy this kind of content, give us a where's the like button? It's over here. Give us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more 8sided blogs from us, or if you want to see what's going on with Declassified. We have a lot of content in development right now. It might seem like things are moving slowly because there's not videos coming out every week like there has been for the last 3 months, other than this 8sided blog. But that is not the case from the inside looking out. So hang in there, we have stuff coming your way. And also, those of us who are in Los Angeles, for 2 more weeks, Gerard and I and a handful of new friends are performing. I didn't perform, but I wrote some content for an evening of one acts, which is staged at the Theater of Note, which is on Cahuenga, just north of Sunset, just south of Selma. Just a couple doors north of Groundworks in Hollywood. And it's a fantastic ensemble of actors. And there's some real funny moments, and there's music, and there was tacos last weekend, or maybe tacos again, I don't know. And if you buy tickets in groups of 4 or more, you get a 50% discount. So theaterofnote.com, and then click on late nights. That's what you're looking for. And it's a fun show, and there's cool people there. You can get to know some of the folks in the Hollywood community a little bit. I recommend it. 2 more weeks. So this Friday and this Saturday at 10 p.m., and then next Friday and next Saturday at 10 p.m. And, if you're not, it's a fundraiser is what the show's for. So if you're not, but you want to support theater, and you want to support, in particular, Note is there to promote first-time playwrights. So they only do premiere, at least LA premieres is what they stage. And they have a really, really remarkable group of performers. So if you want to support that kind of theater, send them a donation. They'll definitely appreciate the help, I guarantee it. And that's all I've got for you today. I'll be back next week. Thank you for watching. Have yourself a great afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.